I mean, give me a break. He had Royal Navy soldiers like saluting him.
You know, we Americans don't get into that whole red carpet kind of stuff. So I know it might be a big deal over in the UK, but it wasn't an affront to us, really. I got to be honest. What were some of the other alleged snubs the president endured?
Oh, well, they're saying that he was snubbed because the president isn't staying in Buckingham Palace. But there's a very good reason that he's not staying in Buckingham Palace, and that's because it's undergoing major renovation works. Major. But think just how old our country is and just how old Buckingham Palace is. It's constantly being fixed. The thing's falling apart. So President Trump is staying in Ambassador Woody Johnson's house, which is a beautiful place in London. Yeah. You know, there's other stuff as well. They said that last time Trump came, he turned his back to the Queen when he was examining the guards, when he was walking alongside the guards. But it actually turns out that it was the Queen who got it wrong, because she's so used to being the one examining the guards, she completely forgot that she was with the president and it was his turn. And so the Queen stopped and moved. I mean, it's all fabricated outrage. They just want to try and make Trump look like a fool.
Right. Well, if your left-wing press is already doing this, if your left-wing press is already manufacturing fake crises, CNN and MSNBC won't be too far behind over here in the United States. Folks, we're talking with Jack Buckby right now, a good friend of mine over in the UK. Architects of Betrayal, the Parliament, how Parliament tried to thwart Brexit from the checkers to the meaningful vote. That's the name of his book. So let me ask you, how did we get here on Brexit? And then what is the future of Brexit in your country?
Not a simple question or a simple answer, I'm afraid. How we got here is that the politicians simply didn't want to deliver the decision that we made in 2016. So we decided to leave, we voted to leave, and what's happened ever since is there hasn't been a majority in Parliament of people who are actually willing to leave on World Trade Organization rules without a deal. Parliamentarians believe that we didn't vote for no deal. When I'm telling you right now that actually I did vote for no deal. So they don't want to deliver what we voted for. They want to keep us tangled in the single market, in the customs union. Whereas President Trump's coming over here and saying, guys, listen, if you leave without a deal, you've got a trade deal with one of the biggest potential trading partners in the world, the United States of America. Join us. And still our politicians either hate Trump more than they love their country, or are just so infatuated with this idea of staying in the EU that they simply won't do it. Brexit will happen if
you can assure your countrymen from me that the United States consumer market is 70% driven by the consuming individuals in this market. The UK would have no better partner than the United States.
Absolutely, and the United States needs services. We're a services economy. It's a match made in heaven. But of course, the politicians really aren't interested in that. They're more focused and single-minded on the European Union. It's a very tragic situation, but there is hope. We may get Brexit if we elect a Brexit prime minister. And of course, I don't know how well you know how the system works, but we don't get to choose the next prime minister. The Conservative Party members do. So let's see who they elect. If it's Boris Johnson, I suspect we might be leaving without a deal, which would be good. Yeah,
no, okay, let me ask you that, because you took me right where I wanted to go. Jack Buckby is our guest right now here on the Chris Salcedo Show, kids, and a good friend of mine. Is the name of his book, Architects of Betrayal, How Parliament Tried to Thwart Brexit from Checkers to the Meaningful Vote. So you guys are going to lose your prime minister, what, in days? Prime Minister Theresa May is stepping down because she couldn't deliver. She flubbed Brexit. So who are we going to get? And this is what has me worried, that if President Trump gets somebody like Jeremy Corbyn, this left-wing extremist, who is the head of the Labour Party there, it could mean a terrible relationship between the United States and Great Britain at a time, in my belief, that we need to be simpatico. We need to be linked. Well, what is your take on who has the inside track on being the next prime minister?
Okay, so what's happening now is there won't be a general election. We're not going to a public vote. What we're doing is electing a new leader of the Conservative Party, and that lies solely in the hands of the parliamentary members of Parliament and then the Conservative Party members. So the general public don't decide the next prime minister. So you can rest assured it's not going to be Jeremy Corbyn, because he's not a Conservative. But it will be one of the Conservative MPs. Right now, the polls are showing that Tory members want Boris Johnson quite significantly so, in fact.
Well, the president says he wants Boris Johnson.
Well, match made in heaven then, isn't it? It's perfect. But Boris has got his flaws, but he's definitely willing to allow the UK to leave on WTO terms. But there's lots of other good candidates too. There's a woman called Esther McVeigh, who's a lady from up north in England. She's quite popular. I've got a feeling that if it's not Boris Johnson, it will at least be a Brexiteer. So I'm becoming more hopeful that Brexit will happen, but we'll just have to wait and see.
And if it does, the United States of America will be over here ready and willing to help our friends with whom we share this special relationship everybody's been talking about for the last couple of days. Your reflections, if you have any, on the marking of the anniversary of the D-Day invasion, what our countries did together.
Oh, I think it's a wonderful thing to see, and I'm very, very glad that this is happening. It was very heartwarming to see the speeches made last night with the Queen and Donald Trump talking about those terrible things that happened in the war and how we worked together to defeat authoritarianism. It was a wonderful, wonderful, heartwarming moment last night, and I'm so glad to see. And I think it's so disgraceful that our politicians, from the Labour Party in particular, are acting in this way in such an important time in history.
Well, that's what leftists do. That's how they behave. And you know what? I would anticipate that many of the left-wingers here in the United States would behave much the same way if there were a conservative coming over from your country or from any other country for that matter. Jack Buckby, ladies and gentlemen, is our guest right now. He is the book is this: Architects of Betrayal: How Parliament Tried to Thwart Brexit from Chequers to the Meaningful Vote. Sir, always appreciate the time here on the Chris Salcedo Show. We'll talk again.
Thanks so much for having me. Take care.
You betcha. You as well.